Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.
Hello, my friends. Happy New Year. It is Wednesday, the 8th of January, and it is time for the very first Mullinger's Weekly Ramble of this beautiful new year. It is the first show of the new year. That is, if you don't count the Facebook Lives that I've been doing over on the Facebooks. Some of you might know that because I was missing you all so much over the Christmas period, and the wonderful people at Podstarter were very wisely taking time off and spending it with their families, whereas I just wanted to still ramble with you guys. So over on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/James Mullinger Comedian, I was doing a Facebook Lives, and so if you want to watch any of those and see what I've been up to the last few weeks, go there. But if you just want to catch up now, I'm here now. Yes, that's right. It is 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm feeling quite lively, which is good because tonight, in just over, I'm not very good at math, in about 13 hours, I am beginning my 3-night run at the St. John Theatre Company's BMO Theatre for a run of completely improvised shows. I'm not sure if you've seen the posters around town. I am doing a series of 3 shows that are untried, untested. What's the exact wording? Let me just open up the file here. Oh yeah, unplanned, unscripted, off the cuff. This is basically me getting up on stage without any safety net whatsoever and allowing the audience obviously rambling I can sit here and ramble, but the big question mark tonight is, can I get on stage and entertain an audience for close to 90 minutes? I do have an opener each night, and each night I have the blessing of the gift of 3 of the finest comedians tearing up the New Brunswick comedy scene. Brad Rice opening for me tonight. Tomorrow night, the great Jeff Pennell. And Friday night, the hilarious and my dear friend Caitlin Dean, who many of you will know as an award-winning journalist, but she is also now one of the hottest and funniest comedians tearing up the East Coast scene. So I had that kind of small safety net, but obviously I do lots of new material shows. Every January, when I'm building a new tour show, I will do work-in-progress shows at different small venues, primarily Long Bay, which is, incidentally, I was actually out on Saturday night. It was a very magical thing. I did my 2024 show for the final time on Saturday night. I did it in December as well, and the show sold out very quickly, so we added another final. So it's a very interesting thing to be Saturday, the 4th of January, performing my 2024 show for the final time, which is, of course, a show of all of my best jokes or greatest hits, whatever you want to call it. And then just 3 days later or 4 days later, doing a completely improvised show. So basically, the amazing thing about tonight's show is that I have no idea how it's going to go. But crucially, as any of you know who listen to me regularly, who've listened to me for the other 36 episodes of this podcast, this is episode 37, exciting. You will know that I prepare so meticulously for shows. I mean, Saturday night being a prime example. This is a show of Saturday Night Just Gone. This is a show that I'm doing at Long Bay. And Long Bay shows are small. It's basically we've got 50 people crammed in there. I've done this show I did it publicly over 50 times last year, but then also in terms of corporates and so forth. But basically I did this show over 100 times last year. Plus it's all material that I've built up over my career, so it's material I'm very familiar with. But I still spent lots of Saturday watching the footage back from December's Long Bay show, listening to the album, which incidentally, for those of you that haven't tuned into the Facebook Lives, the album, my new album, Great James Mullinger's Greatest Hits, that was released just before Christmas. Thanks to all of you, or some of you, or none of you, but thanks to some people, went to number 1 in the iTunes comedy charts. I know, I'm as surprised as you. But I'm also absolutely delighted and incredibly grateful. I think the last time I did a podcast episode 36 was on the 17th of December. So very shortly, I'll quickly do a very, very, very quick whiz-through recap on what I've been up to the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Christmas. I mean, right now, I hope you're all feeling great. I hope you're all happy that, the kids are back in school. I'm hoping that you've managed to take your Christmas tree down. I hope you haven't just chucked it into the streets like some barbarians have done. For me, I feel well. Let me finish what I was talking about the multiple tangents and strands have started already. My point is I normally rehearse and practice and study meticulously for every single show, no matter how big, how small. The fascinating thing about this week's process of this untested, unscripted, off the cuff is I cannot prepare, and there's nothing I can do. There's no safety net. The way it's going to work is the audience will obviously pile in. All three shows are sold out, by the way, which I cannot believe. I'm absolutely gobsmacked, over the moon. To be honest, I had a weird nightmare last night / this morning. Possibly stems from nerves. Every now and again, I have these weird nightmares where I'm kind of back home in England, and in this gig, in this dream, I was in a venue in. I guess it maybe stems from like that kind of feeling sometimes that one gets, which one gets. I guess it's normal to get this, where I kind of sometimes wonder, nothing was going to happen for me in England, kind of comedy career wise. Like I was ticking along, I was doing fine. I could have carried on doing the way I was doing. It wasn't going to progress, I don't think. But every now and again, you have a dream where you kind of, I guess you kind of question yourself. What would have happened if I'd have stayed? What gigs would I be doing now? But the one thing I do know is looking at friends and colleagues, and obviously, of the kind of 100 friends and colleagues that I had, a handful obviously are now superstars. Well, and they were then, the Michael McIntyres, the Jimmy Carrs. But for every one of them, there's 100 people. I wouldn't say struggling, but it's very. I've been very lucky. Was what I'm trying to say, in coming here, being embraced by you all kindly. And I guess what I'm getting at is that I could not feel more appreciative and or more surprised that it's January. I get to start the year off with a sold out show, doing my show from last year. But then this week, the fact that 3 nights at the St. John Theatre Company's BMO Theatre all sold out, for people to come and just see me improvise. I guess what that could mean is there's a lot of people will pay good money to come and see me flop and completely fail and completely. It's really as someone who is not a control freak like myself, but I'm planning, and meticulous planning is everything. And there are some comedians that just turn up at every comedy club. They've obviously got their material, they've got their built-in bits, but they walk on stage. And Derek Sagan's a good example of this. My good friend Derek Sagan, he can rock up on stage and play with the audience and just kind of do whatever bits pop into his head. I always need a plan. So this is going to be, this is kind of why I wanted to do this. Stephen Tobias came to me and said, we'd love to get you back to the St. John Theatre Company. What can we do? How can we do this? It used to be my kind of, it was the place that I performed a lot when I moved here. Then it became my kind of workout space where I would do work in progress shows. Obviously that I now do those at Long Bay. So it was like, how do I do something interesting and different and theatrical? And I did something there a few years ago. I believe it was called Man Watching. Is that what it was called? Where it was a play written by an amazing feminist author, which in other cities, high-profile male actors would, or comedians or whoever would come on and read the script verbatim. They weren't given it before you'd come on and read it. Very interesting experiment. So because the St. John Theatre Company is so known for their innovation, their amazing production, some of you might have seen their incredible Wonka musical before Christmas. I really wanted to do something different. So we came up with this idea of the audience will pick the subjects. I'll walk in. I've got nothing prepared. The audience will either throw things out, ask me questions, put subjects down on pieces of paper, which will be brought up to the stage, and I will stand there, open them up. It's kind of like set list. Set list I did once before, which is Paul Provenza and Babs Roman's concept, which I'm sure many of you may know what set list is. It's a huge thing in LA, which became a TV show all over the world. And I did it at Just for Laughs in 2013, the year before. Weirdly enough, it was the year before I moved here, but it was the Just for Laughs where I got there to do set list and kind of broke the news to all my Canadian comedy friends that I was planning to move to Canada. And that was the kind of occasion when they were all like, oh, no, don't come to Canada, it's screwed here. No, you're better off in England. Nothing's happening here in Montreal or in Toronto. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not going to Montreal, Toronto, I'm moving to New Brunswick. And they all just, no, that's it, mate. Kiss goodbye to comedy. You're done. That's over. If that's your idea. No. And I think I've told this story many, many times before, that the only person that said that it was a good idea, or at least gave me some encouragement, was the amazing comedian Catherine Ryan, who pointed out that contrary to what everyone says, there is an incredible underground movement in Canada, and how you can do things your own way here. You don't have to follow the just for laughs, yuck yucks built-in path, and essentially that. And there's many examples of this. I mean, the Snowed In comedy tour that Pete Zedlacker does is a prime example of this. But there's lots of it. You don't have to be part of the machine, part of the system. Obviously, I'm very blessed and happy to work with Just for Laughs when I do, or with Yuck Yucks when I do, or with CBC when I do. But basically, the bulk of my, for want of a better phrase, my bulk of my earnings stems from me sitting at this desk, booking gigs, myself, my wife doing the contract, and us getting out there. And obviously, I'm very lucky to have amazing agents, Kim King, Steph Bissell, Robert Gallant. And there's all, there is, I'm not disparaging the system in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that essentially, and I'm very grateful for that help, but essentially, for the most part, I'm not part of a comedy industry, I'm not part of a comedy machine, I'm not part of, but so when I release an album on iTunes and it goes to number one, and it was a magical moment, I've got to tell you, I was in Giant Tiger on Friday the 20th of December, which was basically the day the album came out. It quickly went in at number 9, which I was gobsmacked by, to see my name next to Nikki Glaser and Nate Bargetze. Oh my goodness, Nikki Glaser's monologue at the Golden Globes. We'll get to that in a minute. What a phenomenal, one of the best monologues of all time, possibly, very possibly. I've got a good story about Nikki Glaser and Nate Bargetze's special. Again, we'll get to that too. There's a lot to get to. My goodness, taking 3 weeks off, Reese, is very. There's so much to ramble about. Anyway, so it's Friday night. Just before Christmas, the 20th, I was all excited because it was the Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk fight the following night, and so I was buying my favorite peanuts. I don't know if you've had the dill pickle flavored salted peanuts, gorgeous, at Giant Tiger. I just appeared on CTV, and thanks to everyone who watched that. If you want to watch it again, that is on my Facebook page. Myself and Todd Battis doing our 3rd annual Christmas chat roundup, discussing all the controversies about Christmas back in England, discussing my ADHD book, which is going to be out this year. I've planned it. It's going to be done in a couple of months. I hope your New Year's resolutions coming together. I've basically kind of got mine. I'm happy to say I've kind of started off the year with a correct outlook / attitude. Last year, my New Year's resolution, I remember last year driving back from Maine, staying with my dear friend Dr. Ansar Hassan and his beautiful family, and I had all these New Year's resolutions last year, which was one of which I wanted to do some shows in Maine, and it didn't happen because you make these resolutions, they don't always come true. But anyway, this year I've got it sorted. I'm performing in Eastport, Maine and Halton, Maine. That's 2 I've done. And my other dream last year was to perform on 2 stunning islands, not just because I love islands, but also because I love ferries, on pretty much opposite sides. But I wanted to perform on Grand Manan Island and Vancouver Island. That didn't happen last year, but both are definitely happening this year. So anyway, I'm also, I did spend a week. I mean, it's funny, I'm quite, as you know, quite a energetic comedians. I can kind of, I'm a physical comedian. I use a lot of physicality in my act, prancing, preening, mincing about, whatever you want to call it. Right now I'm feeling, obviously my suit has shrunk in the last 3 weeks. I don't know why. It has nothing to do with eating pounds of cheese and drinking boxes of wine for breakfast for 3 weeks. Nothing to do with that. I also have a slight back injury. I'm not sure if it's a broken rib again, but it was from sledding down the hill in front of my house, which again, 46 years old, too old to be doing that, especially when your children have built in jumps were made of snow. So I'm shooting over the jumps, smashed my back in. So between the shrinkage of the suit and the and anyway, so what was I banging on about? So yes, so I was in Giant Tiger. The point is, I was in Giant Tiger buying peanuts for the Tyson Fury fight, all excited, and then I look at my wife's phone, and I was in a good mood. I just come off with Todd Battis. People were sending me messages. Love being on live TV. It's just the greatest thrill and honor. It's an honor when they put you on live TV because it means they know. I know it means they trust you. And I get the message. I see I'm at number 1 on iTunes, which is, again, I guess takes so much pride in that. So anyway, thank you all for listening. The CD is out now, by the way. You can go onto my website and order the CD of that Greatest Hits album. And it's going to be coming out on vinyl as well this year. I can now report, thanks to the brilliance of Paul Milner, my dear friend, one of the best sound music producers in Canada, from England, works with Keith Richards, all sorts. He's the one that did my audiobook. Anyway, how did I get onto all this? Well, the fact is that I can't believe that these 3 shows this week are sold out, and I can't, and I'm what was my point? I don't know. Anyway, that's it. First show of the new year. Question. So I'm trying to start the new year off right. One of the things I'm trying to not do is, do you ever get that thing where, I don't know about you, I've talked about this before, that 4:48 psychosis, where you wake up in the middle of the night, and it's that kind of time when the brain only wants to remind you of all the bad things you've ever done, like all the embarrassing things, all the stupid things, all the things that you maybe perceive have ruined your career, ended friendships, ended relationships. Don't let it, is what I'm trying to say, right? By all means, we should, of course, feel guilt and shame if we've done terrible things. And if you're a serial killer listening to this, let the brain remind you of the bad things. But if you're just someone who's basically trying to live life well, and you're kind of beating yourself up still because you said or did something a bit silly 10 years ago, or said something you wish you hadn't said a bit drunkenly at a dinner party, or you fudged up a gig 5 years ago, don't let your brain remind you. Why does the brain never remind you of all the wins, of the highlights, of the happy things, the hugs, the great family days out, the standing ovations? It's always the fails, the losses, the bombs. Is it like that for everyone? I mean, how does one re-gear one's brain? I don't know. I'm saying that from now on, if I wake up in the middle of the night and my brain says, "Oh, James, remember that time that you did that stupid thing?" I'm going to go, no. Remember that standing ovation. Remember how that felt. Not in an egotistical way, but let's just start the day off feeling that we can do some good, and that we deserve to be happy. How weird is it that it's literally 5 years ago we were starting that year off? Do you remember starting off the 20s? Going, oh, it's the roaring 20s, and then suddenly the COVID's hit. How mad is that? The 5 years ago now. That whole COVID thing is 5 years ago. I know it went on for ages, but it began 5 years ago. I remember we had just been to England. We came out from England, big plans for that year, and then boom. I've realised one of the things, the best thing about having ADHD is you never get bored. I have lots of complaints, as those of you listening to this on the regular will know, but I genuinely, a complaint you will never hear me make whether I'm sat at home, or I'm sat on an 8-hour bus to Halifax, or I'm sat on a train, or sat on a plane, or stuck in an airport. I am never bored. And maybe I think that's my realization for this year, is that the realization that the highlights in life are not, wins or partying, or, I'm blessed enough to say that my work is the fun part. And so, I mean, I'm literally never bored. For example, when I'm on a bus for 8 hours, I would invariably get like a chapter of a book written, or I'll get a whole magazine feature written, or new issue. By the way, new issue of the Tomato is on newsstands across Canada now. It is volume 31, the winter issue. The cover story is about Blackbush Beach Resort on Prince Edward Island, Atlantic Canada's hottest new beach resort. Absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, I didn't want to talk about it too much on the podcast last year because we were sitting on tens of thousands of copies and we couldn't mail them out because of the Canada Post strike. But now, and then it went on sale, and then we sold out actually. But luckily, our amazing printer, Dan at Italic, has allowed us to order a reprint. More copies are coming. It's on newsstands across the country. It looks absolutely gorgeous. Check out the cover. How do they get onto this? I never get bored, is the point. Anyway, so that's and then my other realization for this year was I'm someone, maybe like yourself, I don't know if it's the same, that I sometimes let things get me down, i.e. the knockbacks, the kickbacks, the rejections, the failures. And I've now realized, and I realized this while swimming at the YMCA the other day, and this is how I've tried to start off the year, swimming on the regular, like as I mentioned before, swimming at the YMCA is the place that I think it's the place that I but I just had this realization that all these things that I let get myself down when I felt like I've been rejected for, whether it's a TV show, a radio show, a festival, all the kind of industry things I was referring to earlier, and there's this idea that I don't think anyone thinks that what I do is easy, but at the same time, The reality of my stage of life, career, whatever, is that I sit here and write 100 emails a day, chasing work on average, and two turn into something. That's how it works. But my realization was this: that when we get knocked back in life by a person, but for a promotion, for a job, for anything that you might think of, they're not rejections. They are just simply situations that you don't want to be in. Whether it's a relationship, a job, if you have to beg, it's not going to work. The great comedian Daniel Sloss has a great stand-up special about this called Jigsaw, and it's about you can't push the jigsaw piece into the puzzle. And anytime that someone's saying no to you, or saying they don't want to work with you, or saying that no, you didn't get this festival, you didn't get this gig, you didn't get this job, you didn't, someone you fancy doesn't want to go out with you, it's not a rejection. They're saving you from a situation that you definitely don't want to be in. Okay, I want to say, I don't know how much, as you know, my interest in sports growing up was limited. I've recently got into soccer. Obviously, I've always loved boxing. The Usyk Fury fight, I absolutely loved. It was one of the highlights of my Christmas period, the 21st of December. Had friends in, watched the fight. It was absolutely wonderful. More recently, January in England is always about watching the darts, the live darts at the Lakeside Club. I've actually been lucky enough to be at the Lakeside Club. Back in the days when you could smoke in there, they're walking around. Embassy with the sponsors. They would walk around like cigarette girls would walk around handing out packs of cigarettes. The Lakeside Club for the darts final this month just looked like a PDC World Darts Championship final. Look it up on YouTube or whatever else. It looked like absolute carnage. Like, obviously, you can't smoke in there anymore with people partying. The darts is the only sport where you can kind of smoke and drink while you're doing it. Can you imagine any other sport where you can smoke and drink while doing it? There's a great meme that goes around of a couple of classic darts players where they're standing there. The fact these guys are athletes and they're standing there holding pints of beer, lighting each other's cigarettes. Anyway, if you're interested in phenomenons, if you're interested in child prodigies, if you're interested in history being made, the world champ prior to this was the amazing Michael Van Gerwen, one of the greatest of all time, possibly even considered the greatest of all time. And then out of nowhere comes this kid, British kid, Luke Littler, 17 years old, thrashes Michael Van Gerwen like 7-3, wins the PDC World Darts Championship final. Never seen anything like it. Look it up. If you're Luke Littler, Littler is his name. It's an incredible thing, and it makes you wonder, where does this come from? Because you hear these stories about the Serena Williamses and the Tiger Woodses who were groomed from a young age by their parents to be great. And then there's the people like Conor McGregor who had this kind of intense drive and passion that Conor McGregor famously when he was starting out in MMA was like paying rugby players like 50 quid or 20 quid to come and beat the shit out of him in a cage so he could practice. And then meanwhile, Luke Littler, kind of like a Messi or a Michael Jordan, is just born with it. Like he's just, there's not, like I've said this before, how in stand-up comedy, that no one is born funny or born like the stand-up comedy. You study it. It's like being a mechanic. Except the mechanic is obviously far more skilled, but you can learn it. Like. And I guess similarly with whether it's architecture and I guess in some medical, obviously some people are born, but I mean, who knows? Who knows where you stand on the whole born with it or not? Whether maybe she's born with it, maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know. But you basically work at it. Well, a prime example is my next subject, which is Nikki Glaser. I mean, her opening monologue at the 82nd Golden Globes. I mean, my goodness, what a perfect monologue! Hilarious, roasty, while also being respectful. I mean, she succeeded in where Michael Che failed 2 years ago, and obviously Joe Coy failed last year. She came out, she was charming, she brought all the same brilliance, wit, and hilarity, and indeed, I mean, skewering. I mean, it was still, let's face it, quite hardcore. If you are interested in comedy, she did a great interview with Howard Stern on the jokes she couldn't do. One of the jokes was a great one where she said this is the first time you'll all be in a room. This is the last time you'll all be in a room together until the Diddy trial. It's a great joke, but of course, can you accuse a room full of people of being pedophiles, predators, rapists without losing them? So she got the balance just right. Ricky Gervais possibly would have done a joke like that. He also tweeted some jokes he would have done. There was a great roast of 2024 actually on, well, I say great hit and miss roast on Netflix called Roasting 2024. Jeff Ross, some of the best comedians right now are on there. Mark Normand, Sam, I can never remember his surname. Sam Morrell. Love the two of them. They do that We Might Be Drunk podcast. Some killer lines on that. Absolutely hardcore killer lines. But it's also looks a very, very cheap production. Anyway, Nikki Glaser was absolutely spot on. Martin Short is here because we have cameras. I mean, what a brilliant joke. I'm sorry, Joker 2. Oh, where's their table? Oh, that's right, they're not here. I mean, how can Joker... I mean, if you ever feel like in life things aren't going your way, imagine being a member of the Joker team. Like, or the stars of Joker. You go from being an Oscar-winning, the most successful superhero movie of all time ever, also respected as an art house movie, winning every single award, breaking every box office, and then you make a sequel that everyone hates, and it's done. You're done. You literally become the punchline for a joke, and you don't get invited. I just thought she was absolutely brilliant. And it's interesting. I heard Creative React, and she interestingly. So this goes back to my point I was making. She practiced this set something like 97 times. She said she did like 4 or 5 clubs a night, like she did with the Tom Brady roast. And with the Tom Brady roast, it was very hard for her to test the material because, of course, a lot of the people, i.e., the American, I still call them American football, NFL players and coaches and stuff, their names aren't known to the general public necessarily, or they are, but not always a comedy club audience. So she would often have to explain who they were before doing the joke. Like, I hadn't heard of Kronk or whatever until the night of the roast. Now, obviously, very quickly you learn, okay, this guy Kronk, obviously a very good player, but basically he's known for being thick as shit. That's the joke. So I now get what the joke is. But she was having to explain that. Okay, there's this guy Kronk, and he's there. When she was testing it, now, obviously, while testing Globe material. Anyway, the point is that she is meticulously well rehearsed. Wrote. She was the opposite of what Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura did at the roast, at the Tom Brady roast, where they just came out and thought they could wing it. No, Nikki Glaser, I met her in 2012, I believe. I'd been working on the GQ comedy issue, and we'd done a shoot with, we'd done maybe the second or third comedy issue. Done a shoot with all the greats. So amazing time I spent with Tracy Morgan, Chris Rock, Jackie Mason, Seinfeld. It was the third time working with Seinfeld, and then I wanted some of my up and coming favorite comedians in there. Which by this point I'd got enough cachet with my editor that he would let me do this. So I was saying I want this guy Mike Birbiglia, who'd no one heard of. This other comedian Amy Schumer, who no one had heard of, but I'd seen her interestingly on a roast. I think she was dating Anthony Jeselnik at the time. And she had, literally hadn't, so we did the shoot with Amy, and then I was then back in New York. This makes my life sound very glamorous. It wasn't really as glamorous as it sounds, but I was then back in New York doing a cover shoot with Andrew Garfield for possibly the first Spider-Man movie. Very serious guy. Came across actually a bit of a tool, I think, at the Golden Globes. That didn't work, did it? That thing where the guest presenters would come on stage and stand and face the audience. It was really weird. It was like they were standing. It's like a selfie screen. It was like didn't work. But so basically, I mean, it's interesting. Nikki Glaser was the best thing about the Golden Globes, and that is delightful. I went to see Wicked a couple of weeks ago. Last week, got lots to talk about Wicked. It's been. I hope you've all had a wonderful Christmas. Did I say that? I really hope you had. I had a really wonderful one. It's so nice. My both my nephews were here. They live in Ontario and Quebec, respectively. So proud of them. Just two amazing young men who obviously I have now known. Jordan, my oldest nephew, was born basically days before Pam and I met. Like when we met, she had just got back from Canada, visiting my amazing sister-in-law Judy, who'd just given birth to Jordan, and then my first visit to Canada was a few months later. My first visit to Canada was contrary to what I say in my book for comic effect. My first visit to Canada was actually to Toronto to meet my amazing in-laws and amazing sister-in-law and baby Jordan. Anyway, point being, we went to see Wicked the other week. Anyway, I'll get to that. Where am I? The Globes. I loved the line that Nikki Glaser did, which she said to Timothy Chalamet, "You have the most gorgeous eyelashes on your upper lip." I mean, just brilliant. Oh, that's right. 93 times she rehearsed it, and when you watch it, you believe it. I mean, it was perfection. Her tone was just perfect. She roasts people, but it never feels mean, over the top. So anyway, yes, I was in New York. I then went back to this cover shoot with Andrew Garfield. I spent the day with him. Oh, it's the night before actually. It was the night before I went to the Comedy Cellar, and Amy Schumer had invited me to come and watch her, and I sat at that table. They all sit at, and they were all very, very pleasant. Colin Quinn less so, but I kind of understand it now. He didn't want some, nobody comedian slash, UK journo sitting at their table, and Amy introduced me to Nikki Glaser that night, and I saw I saw them both perform. Then I went off somewhere. I went off to meet Anthony Mandler. Anthony Mandler, photographer, now filmmaker. Google him. Amazing, amazing. He shot the cover. Then I went back to the Comedy Cellar to see if Amy was still there so we could hang out. As per her suggestion, she was no longer there, but Nikki was there, and so I stayed and watched Nikki's set for the second time. And I've kind of followed her career since, and obviously, like a lot of people have found, but let's face it, wrongly, she has often been in the shadow of her best friend, Amy Schumer, which is unfair, but it's the reality of, the industry per se, and the way it treats women, and I know women aren't minorities, but the way it treats minorities, it's like, oh, we've got one attractive blonde comedian, we don't need another attractive blonde comedian. And also, I mean, to be fair, Nikki has obviously got a lot better. I mean, this is the funny thing is, I'm sure she felt 10 years ago that she was ready for everything, and now, but hard work and practice makes us all better. We are constantly, but anyway, so she's just basically becoming undeniable, and I feel like her career is going to be, and who knows? I'm sure they're not egotistical, but is Amy sat there thinking, oh, Nikki's overtaking me? I'm sure they don't think about that. I love the tequila joke about Dwayne Johnson. Anyway, point being, she nailed it. So I'm going to very quickly whiz through everything I've been doing. Oh, I guess one thing I will say is I often quote an amazing therapist here in KV by the name of Dr. Meredith Henry, and I found the exact quote that I was looking for because I paraphrased it a lot, but this is something worth remembering as we start the new year, that she said to me once that stuck with me for a long time. You have successfully navigated 100% of everything you have ever had to face and go through. So remember that as you navigate the next few months, year, week, whatever it is. We've already been through so much, we can do it again. Okay, I will quickly. Oh, I'm going to shout all the things that I've watched. Okay, so the things that I've watched a lot. Let's just say over this last period. Squid Game season 2. What a disappointment. Although I must admit I didn't love the first season as much as everyone else, but I found season 2 so disappointed. I watched a lot of old British comedy DVDs, including a comedian that many deem to be highly controversial because he is very offensive, but to my mind, he's no different to Jimmy Carr and Ricky Gervais. But I watched some old Roy Cherry Brown DVDs. I watched Stickman, Julie Donaldson's Stickman, which is amazing. If you want to see me reading Stickman, again, that's on my Facebook page, along with a story about my grandfather being lost at Christmas time. Your friend Nate Bargetze, we watched on Christmas Eve. Phenomenal. Love Nate Bargetze. Can't wait. I'm desperate to see him live. Watched Tiddler on Christmas Day, another Julia Donaldson adaptation. So much great TV on British TV. They had the British TV at Christmas time is the best. Canadian TV, what is going on? Why does Canada not have shows that personify this gorgeous country? Greatest country in the world, second biggest country in the world, and yet the 60th country in the world has the best Christmas TV. Watch the rather appalling Beast Games. Watch lots of Only Fools and Horses, which again reminds me of Only Fools and Horses, one of the greatest British sitcoms of all time, up there with Fawlty Towers. If you haven't seen Only Fools and Horses, you love it. Watch Michael McIntyre's 25th year stand-up special, which was again another Christmas show. And many of you will know and love Michael McIntyre. Do you know Michael McIntyre? Tell me if you know him. British comedian. I've seen him. Wham's Last Christmas Unwrapped. Fascinating. Again, Wham, one of the greatest bands of all time. It's about Last Christmas and how they made the song. Unbelievable the abuse that Andrew Ridgeley and George Michael used to get by the British press for decades, and now obviously everyone's acknowledging they are heroes and the greatest band, one of the greatest bands of all time, and how wonderful they are. But yet, why was George Michael given so much grief and just horrible treatment during his life? Tells you everything you need to know about the press. Anna Kendrick and Alice Darling, a movie directed by Bill Nighy's daughter. Actually, I guess supposed to be a British film, but it was actually filmed in Canada. And they don't hide the fact that it's in Canada, which is absolutely wonderful. But lots of views of Toronto, a very feminist movie about the importance of friends and escaping negative relationships. My wife forced me to watch Virgin River, which, again, don't want to be disparaging about a show. I find the acting and the script, should we say, questionable. But what I loved about Virgin River was the fact that Virgin River, I know it's filmed in BC and it's set in America, but it could easily have been filmed in New Brunswick. Saw Wicked. It's long, isn't it? It's long. And I know, and I wanted to love Wicked. I want to be on the Wicked train. It was very long. I felt like it was never going to end. I did not find the songs as catchy as I thought they would, but maybe I just need to keep listening to them because I want to love Wicked. I want to love... Everyone says it's about positivity and it's about joy and it's about friendship. And I just saw someone being bullied for being the wrong colour. And then also, then I guess it all ends with everyone really happy that someone has died, which I find weird to ever be... I mean, we've seen it recently, obviously, with the CEO of that healthcare company dying. People being happy about that. So... I find it weird whenever anyone is celebrating anyone dying. I'm watch Woman of the Hour with Anna Kendrick as well. That's Anna Kendrick. Missing You, the latest Harlan Coben adaptation. Oh my goodness. I mean, talk about a script written with AI and acting. The actors look like they're AI. My God. Harlan Coben adaptations are hit and miss, to say the least. Even the good ones are obviously trashy. This is like an EastEnders rehearsal. It's like imagine again, I'm not disparaging EastEnders or Coronation Street, but imagine a soap opera where their first rehearsal. Imagine if none of the actors had any acting experience. They were handed the scripts for the first time, and it was the worst script. That's kind of what these Harlan Coben adaptations have become. So that's everything I've watched. I'm actually going to go through very shortly some of the amazing films that are to come this year. Obviously some of them are out now. A Complete Unknown, Baby Girl. But I'm going to do a big roundup. Oh, I will say this. Another profound thing to remember to the start of the year. This was something which said by the preacher Reverend Ginny Wilmhoff, who is the one of the preachers at St. Paul's on the Common here in Rothesay. She talked about being terrified about skating on ice and getting hurt and how she got very injured. And she said that she now is how by practicing gratitude, we'll notice a change in ourselves and we'll be happier. This was her suggestion for this year. Journal 3 things each day that you're grateful for. So it could be anything. It could be ego-driven. It could be something you're proud of. It could be something you're grateful for in life. It could be a film. This is the kind of thing that I think the amazing Julie Wood would do. Julie Wood is a beacon of positivity. She not only is the joy bringer in St. John as the manager of the St. John Cineplex. I mean, and again, I feel it every time I go in there. Again, even though I didn't love Wicked, I still enjoyed the magic of it. And my big joy came from seeing the Andre Rieu concert at the Cineplex over Christmas. Anyway, Reverend Ginny Wilmhoff said, journal 3 things each day that you're grateful for. And then after talking about that fear she has of skating, she said she's going to skate on the ice of life. And that's what we all should do this year. I'm sitting here actually next to the new book, or first book, I guess, by Brent Mason, my friend Brent Mason, Midway. As many of you know, one of the best musicians this region has ever had. A total hero. I love Brent Mason as a human, love him as a musician, love him as a writer. And this is his first book, Midway, which there's a thank you for me in there, which is very, very lovely. You may know him also from his phenomenal column in the Telegraph Journal. My friends Bev and Dan gave me... This was the other thing about Saturday night. Bev and Dan came, my dear friends. They gave me a book called Raven Hatching that I'm very excited to read. My dear friend Deb Perry and her wonderful husband Mark were there. But the rest of the audience Saturday night at Long Bay were made up of people that I think hadn't seen me before. So it was really interesting doing what is my oldest material for the final time and it being a kind of victory lap for the material. And I kind of thought, oh dear, it's going to be, people kind of laughing knowingly because they know the jokes. They know I made it myself, where things used to be, all that, right? But instead it was people that had never seen me before. So I was getting to see this material land in a way that because they were all hearing it for the first time, which again, then you kind of go, oh God, do I really want to get rid of all this? Anyway, look up that what I was saying about the darts. This is a quote from the Guardian article about the darts. The darts is on the verge of a new age, a tectonic shift in history, popularity, and cultural footprint. You heard it here first. Darts is the new NFL. Or as we used to call it in British pubs, the Arrows. I'm back. Sorry, you don't need to know this, but I did just have to pause the recording then. Because of life and needing to get the kids up and take them to school. And I also had to have I didn't have to, I wanted to have a very exciting meeting about another show in Maine coming up this year. I have one show booked in Halton, Maine, and thanks to the meeting I just had in the split second, the time travel moment where I was speaking to you a second ago and then suddenly now I'm back with you now. You don't need to know any of this. We could have just cut all this out and it would never have been any the wiser, would you? Although I guess my voice maybe sounds a bit different. Does my voice sound different between 6 a.m. and mid-morning? I don't know. You can tell me. Answers on a postcard. Don't do a postcard, takes too long, and they're probably on strike anyway. Answers on an email, comedy@jamesmallinger.com, although emails too. I wonder if emails will one day become the slow thing. You know how we call, the pigeon post, the snail mail. I wonder if email, even now, the young people think is old-fashioned. I've had a few, I was going to say dalliances with, no, that sounds like... Dalliance, that sounds sexual, which is not supposed to be. I've had dealings with the younger generation. By that I mean, I guess 20-somethings and 30-somethings of occasion when they say, I'll snap ya. And I'm like, no, no, I'm not on the Snapchats. IG me, DM me. And I'm like, no, you know what? If you want to do business, you be professional. You can roll it. You can put it on Braille, and you can attach it to a pigeon and send it to me. No, you can email me. And they look at me like I'm like the most old-fashioned, like I'm some old wizened sorcerer that's come from the past. No, if you want to do business, send me an email, lay it out. Don't just shoot me a message on the Facebook. No, they're not even on Facebook. Are they, young people? Okay, this is too much ramble to come back with. Was it more focused earlier? I don't know. Anyway, the point is that I was on had an exciting chat about doing a show in Eastport, Maine, which is it's the smallest city in Maine. It has a population of about 1,200 people, I believe. The other place I'm doing, Halton, Maine, has a population of 5,000 people. I never knew populations of anywhere when I lived in England. And suddenly now I live in North America. I'm obsessed with population sizes. I'm obsessed with the fact that I live in a town with a population of 5,000 people. Anyway, so I'm doing a show in this time a year ago. I had all these. Did I tell you this already? All these New Year's resolutions that I wanted to do, and last year, lots of exciting things happened. Don't get me wrong, but this year I'm making them all happen. I hope this is not how it's going to be tonight. Like I say, it's odd. It's such a weird feeling having these shows coming up tonight, tomorrow, and Friday night, where I can't prepare and I've literally no idea how it's going to go. Obviously, I'm kind of hoping that it goes well. I'm hoping it's funny. I'm also secretly, to be perfectly honest, I don't want to jinx it, but hoping that it's going to generate a ton of new material. That the audience is going to come up with subjects, and I'm going to improvise, and it's going to generate some gold. Anyway, I'm going to quickly. We're probably running out of time. I don't even know how much that first podcast was, but I'm guessing we've got about 20 minutes left. So what I'm going to do is shoot through the things that I've been up to. I can't remember what I told you last week. I went to Cirque du Soleil at a TD station where Harbour Station used to be. What a show. So Cirque du Soleil, Crystal is the show. I've seen Cirque du Soleil shows before, as I'm sure you have. I don't think I've seen one for about 20 years. I think I've seen one possibly in Quebec and possibly in England. My wife Pam saw one in Vegas with our friend Tiffany Mackay a few years back. And this particular Cirque show was here in St. John, I believe, right before COVID in 2019. And again, not to be one of those people that's constantly kind of thinking negatively about things, but I kind of thought, maybe it's going to be a pared down production, being in a smaller city. It was absolutely so phenomenally mind blowing. One of the greatest performing arts experiences I've had, just absolutely out of this world. The stunts. It's the first Cirque du Soleil show that's on ice, so of course it's beautifully intrinsically an Atlantic Canadian thing. I believe there's lots of Atlantic Canadians actually behind this particular production, and in this production, of course, it's very, very difficult to get your head around the numbers and the economics of a show like this. I know how expensive it is to put on shows and how difficult it is and how expensive it is to promote them and to make sure they're teched properly. And I am one idiot standing on a stage holding a microphone, shooting out some jokes. These are dozens of highly skilled performers all on stage at the same time doing these death-defying stunts. And I mean, to be honest, I'm like all of you, I'm a huge Simone Biles fan. Huge admirer. But what's incredible is, I'm watching the Simone Biles documentary and it's saying, this is the greatest stunt anyone's ever done. I'm going, wow, that's the greatest stunt that's ever been done. And then I'm watching Cirque du Soleil going, but that's even more amazing. And I've never even heard of these people. How is it these performers who worked at Cirque du Soleil are doing these things? They're hanging off the roof of Harbour Station without a rope, swinging from one arm, climbing up, piling up chairs on top of each other and hanging from them. I mean, completely out of this world stunts. And these are performers that you've never heard of. And I don't really understand the intricacies of gymnastics and circus stunts. Maybe you can explain it to me. It's a funny thing. I guess it's kind of like with all, you might go and see a comedian who you think's great and you wonder why they're not better than some comedians that, I guess that's kind of how it works. Speaking of which, did I already mention Nate Bargetze's special? It's funny looking online at some of the comments. Nate Bargetze's latest special for Netflix. A lot of people commenting on how he's the first clean comedian. But of course, there's other, Jerry Seinfeld. There's lots of other comedians, Jim Gaffigan, lots of other comedians that work clean. Nate Bargetze, there's moments of absolute genius in it. It's a very slow paced. It's one of those things where if he talked as fast as I did, that show would probably be about 15 minutes long. It is excellent. It does always make me wonder when I see these things and read these things, given that I am mostly clean, bar a few occasional F-bombs, it does often make me wonder, like, am I doing myself a disservice career-wise by not just completely cleaning up my act? But it's a weird thing when you have to go by audience reactions, you have to go by feedback, and it's an odd thing. Like sometimes I do a filthier show and people go, oh, that's great. I don't normally like what you do because I like the edgier stuff. And then vice versa. People write to me saying, we used to like you and then you used too many F-bombs on Friday night and now we're not going to come again. It's a hard thing to often navigate when you're a nobody. How do they get onto this? So I don't really get it. Like Simone Biles, obviously amazing, but I saw so stunts at the Cirque du Soleil show at TD last week that just absolutely seemed to my eyes and mind and my uneducated and non I'm not in that field, but absolutely magnificent. So if you have a chance to see Cirque du Soleil, Crystal, do so. What else? Oh, obviously, while the Christmas period was on, it was the World Juniors. Lots of controversy about the way in which. Oh my goodness! I haven't even touched the fact that our Prime Minister resigned yesterday. Well, obviously, that's a very big deal. Seemingly by a lot of people on the social medias, everything's great now. Everything's going to be absolutely rosy. Apparently, Canada's completely saved, which is great news. Who knew? Who knew that just Prime Minister resigns and now everything's going to be just fine, apparently. Oh, great. Well, I did not know so many people did not like Trudeau. Who knew? But I guess Trudeau gone. It's a bad time to be in the bumper sticker business, isn't it? What are they going to do with all those F Trudeau bumper stickers? Will they become retro? Like in Kenny Bunkport, they have all those kind of those Al Gore T-shirts. What was it? Was it Bush Cheney? They have the old Bush Cheney T-shirts. Who knows what's going to happen? As I say, I'm someone who is generally I'm a liberal voter, but equally I am also someone who votes for who I believe to be the right person for the job. I don't know. Maybe will his resignation mean we get the media back? Will we get interest? Will we be able to? Interesting thing that the Prime Minister resigns, but you can't share the news about it on Facebook because thanks to him, it's still banned. To save Canadian media, he banned Canadian media from had it banned from essentially had it But that's about 2 years now. We've had no Canadian media on social media, or no media actually anywhere any international media allowed on Canadian. It's the only country in the world where that happened. Canada's the only country where that happened. Equally, Trudeau was obviously was actually in some ways supportive of the magazine and newspaper business, even though he obviously spent all of his advertising dollars on the Chinese-owned TikTok brainwashing machine. So who knows? Anyway, lots of people happy about it. Lots of people, let's not deny all the good he did. There's lots of. I'm not going to bore you with the list. There's lots of wonderful things. We're legalizing cannabis and legalizing euthanasia. Is that what it's called here as well? Euthanasia? Dying with dignity. I've been having lots of chats with Americans lately. Actually, a lovely American gentleman, actually a Trump voting American gentleman, came to my show on Saturday night. I did some jokes. Did some jokes about the American election. He came up to me afterwards and said, "Hi, I voted for Trump." And I said, "Which time?" He said, "Both times." And I gave him a hug and I said, "Well, welcome to Canada. This is a place where people of differing political opinions can be friends and hug and debate one another friendly and sensibly." And that was it. So was the election rigged? Who knows? America's got a new president, haven't they? So you got Elon Musk. Yeah. It's seemingly Elon Musk is now completely in charge thanks to the size of his checkbook. What an absolute... I don't know if you've seen this. He's telling the British government how they should be operating things. I don't know. Okay, we're going to... sorry, yes, I know what to say. Was the World Juniors. So lots of controversy there, in addition to where Canada, obviously, it's our national sport, hockey. They didn't do very well. Canada v Latvia was supposed to be an easy game. Canada lost in that game. But the winning goal scored by Latvia, I'm sure you know this, it was actually scored by a player, an amazing player, who plays for the St. John Sea Dogs. So it was a very on Eric Smateko. So it was very kind of odd watching Canada lose, but kind of cheering him on for a bit of St. John pride. I believe he has actually now since been traded, which presumably Seagal's got a lot of a good deal for. There's lots of talk about who the new trainer is going to be for the World Juniors, because by all accounts, not a great performance, and there's lots of reasons given for that. Some people have said nepotism, some people have said they cancelled practices. Some people have said a bit about East Coast pride here. A lot of people have said that it is due to the fact that they are very narrow in their what's the word? Not where you're sourcing players. What's the word I'm looking for? But this isn't live, isn't it? You can't comment underneath. Where you scouting. They're not scouting east enough. They should look more over here, and then you'd get players as good as Eric's, the amazing Latvian player who beat Canada. So that was the World Juniors. I had the immense pleasure of actually watched the next day's game. The day after that, who was it playing? It was I'm looking at my diary now. Latvia v USA. I watched that in Vito's on the 28th of December. My son had spent all day skating on the commons. I'd been at the field house playing soccer with my son in the afternoon, and I'd sent a chapter about my brother Nick to my editor for my second book that morning. So that was a productive day. And then my wife and I went and watched the Latvia USA game in Vito's, and the USA beat them. Anyway, we're going to move on. I bought I don't know if the sound is better now than it used to be on the podcast. I'm using a new MacBook Pro. Like a lot of people, I've been through a lot of MacBooks because Apple had that terrible thing where, I guess Steve Jobs' legacy before he died was make sure that every single device that you buy has a shelf life and will die early. So you have to keep buying new ones. And even though we swear it off each time and we say, I'm never buying another Apple product, we always do. And so I thought I'd go all in and get a MacBook Pro. Had one. I went to all the shops and thought safer to buy it direct from Apple. So I did it on spec. I picked the maximum RAM and the maximum spacing, and this will last me. And then it arrived a few weeks later, and it had a different keyboard. And I'm like, okay, I can get used to this. Turned out I couldn't work with it. Although it was a French keyboard, basically. It was a French keyboard, which is wonderful. And I thought this would be useful, but I couldn't get used to it. And again, I'm working on lots of bilingual editions of the magazine right now, which is very exciting. And I love, obviously, bilingualism, and I love celebrating the joys of having both in this province. However, I couldn't work with this different keyboard. And I got in touch with Apple and said, why did I get a French keyboard? Because I didn't order this. And they said, you clicked Canada. And I said, yes, I kicked Canada because I'm in Canada. And they said, well, Canada means French. I said, well, actually, it means both. We're both. But I didn't know this. I didn't know that if you choose Canada for your laptop, it automatically means you are asking for a French laptop according to Apple. Who knew? I did not know that. I don't know, who knew that. I've been watching a lot of Cobra Kai. Did I mention that? Cobra Kai? So what I did see at the cinema was Standing on the Shoulders of Kitties, the Bubbles Trailer Park Boys movie. I saw that at cinema. Absolutely hilarious. Obviously, like most people, a huge fan of the Trailer Park Boys. Also a very big fan of Charlie Lightning, the director of this film, because he also directed the Liam Gallagher documentary, As It Was, that I actually went to see in London in 2019 with my one of my oldest best friends, Rob. So what was interesting about Trudeau's resignation actually was it not only did it make front page news in England, there are also, even if you're a Trudeau fan and supporter, the good news is it bumped the View from the TV schedules. I mean, it's got to be a good thing. I tell you what I did like about the Golden Globes, in addition to Nikki Glaser's monologue, was Seth Rogen and Catherine O'Hara came up and did a very Canadian bit that was absolutely hilarious. And Seth Rogen, in the midst of this, or both of them, did a fisting joke, which I thought was very radical, given, I don't know if any Brits listening will remember the British Comedy Awards, probably about 25 years ago. Julian Clary he came out a long time before that, but he came out on stage after Norman Lamont, the politician, had left the stage, I believe. And Julian Clary walked out and said, I've just been backstage fisting Norman Lamont. And this was on live TV, and it caused a huge scandal. And it's so interesting, the things that were so scandalous back then. This was front page news. People were calling for his resignation. It's a bit like when Russell Brand and Jonathan Ross did the prank phone call to Andrew Sachs, who is Manuel from Fawlty Towers. They called him because Russell Brand had carnal relations with Andrew Sachs' granddaughter, and they phoned him and told him. Very unacceptable behaviour, obviously. But it was such a scandal. BBC were very angry. Apparently, they were fine with all the raping that Russell Brand had been doing. They were fine with that and covering that up. And Jimmy Savile fixed it for him. They're fine with all that, but they don't like prank phone calls at the BBC. I was very happy watching the Golden Globes. I have to say, it was delightful seeing how much the Canadian Automobile Association were getting so many shout outs. I've got lots of friends at CAA Atlantic, and it was very nice to hear CAA getting the shout outs. Obviously, I am I am well aware that CAA is also a American talent agency, but every time someone came up and said, I'd like to thank CAA, I thought to myself, yeah, good on Canadian Automobile Association. They've got me out of many binds in my time. I think I might have mentioned this earlier about the movie Wicked. Again, we had a wonderful family outing to see that on New Year's Day. It was the perfect. Actually, I didn't have a hangover on New Year's Day. It was my first day, New Year's Day, without a hangover in a long time. We all went to see Wicked. As I say, I said the songs haven't. I didn't love it. What I meant was, after the movie Wonka, you walk out of the movie Wonka and you know all the songs off by heart instantly. And it's a year later, I still know. Do you have a sweet tooth? I do. Scrub, scrub. Right, like you remember all the songs. It's like you've known them forever. Wicked for me, just again, please don't be sending me angry letters, but Wicked for me, I didn't walk out instantly like knowing and loving all the songs. Now, I've no doubt they're going to grow on me. They're going to be probably forced into my head in a kind of a Clockwork Orange style, kind of like how Taylor Swift was kind of, put upon us. Taylor Swift, amazing artist, but would I be in love with Taylor Swift as much if every single radio station, every single commercial, every single movie, and every single TV show in the world wasn't pushing her into my head 24/7 for 5 years and telling me that I like her? It's a bit like that thing, where people say to you, the Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory, number one TV show in the world. And I think, that's only because every single time I walk into a room in my house to play Big Bang Theory's on. I didn't put it on. No one's in there watching it. It's just, if a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? If the Big Bang Theory's on in every room, it's the most watched show in the world because it's on every single TV channel in every single room that no one's in. Has anyone ever even seen an episode of The Big Bang? Maybe no one's ever even seen one. I'm not saying that's the case with Taylor Swift or the Wicked soundtrack. What I'm saying is sometimes things get pushed on you and forced on you that you don't want. I'm sure some people in St. John felt that way about me in the year 2014, 2015 when I arrived, which is why I took a back seat after that. And now you won't see me hardly doing anything in and around Uptown St. John. Anyway, I'm going off the point. Oh, by the way, I'm holding in my hand right now my CD. It arrived between this morning's podcast, and I now have the physical thing in my hand. It's an absolute thing of beauty. I might go onto the Facebooks and do a Facebook Live later to show you the. In fact, I will. I'll do that right. I'll do it shortly. Head over to jamesfacebook.com. I'm on the Instagrams and the Twitters. I'm not on the Snaps. I was signed up to Snapchat about 12 years ago, briefly. And I probably just deleted the apps. The account's probably still there. So there's probably 50,000 penis pictures sitting, waiting for me, all from my brother. But anyway, Facebook is where I guess most of my action is taking place. But the CD cover looks lovely. Matthew Joel Phillips done a beautiful job. It's so nice holding a physical thing in my hands. There's the track listings here. The first one is Welcome and Weather. The track listings are as follows: Small Town Canada, Naughty Town Names, St. John versus St. John's, Canadian Ferry Boats, of course, Canuck Pursuit, Homemade Wine, Where Zella's Used to Be, Pants, Rubbers and Quiffs, and Becoming Canadian. I should also point out in my hand, I mentioned earlier my friends Bev and Dan, who came to the show on Saturday night at Long Bay. They gave me a book called Raven Hatching, which is by their pastor, Dan Pusey. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I imagine that could have been difficult to pronounce, possibly. I imagine children in the playground could have mispronounced that, but it's Reverend Dan Pusey. And I cannot wait to read your book, Dan. I have a list of films that are coming out very soon. We're gonna wrap this up quick because I don't want to keep you. By the way, for those of my listeners in Florida who like to keep abreast of what is happening, is abreast a word here? I don't want to sound filthy. On top of, and it also sounds sexual. Well, I say listeners in Florida. I'm talking about Lady Catherine here, Lady Catherine St. Pierre. Lady Catherine, to keep you in the loop, Colwell's on Rossay Road, where Colwell's used to be, is now, it has been a beautiful cafe and art studio owned by Lana Doucette for many years, and it is now opening again. I believe Colwell's was a kind of a meat market / butcher's. And now it is opening again as a premium butcher's. There was a premium butcher's opening, which is just a wonderful thing for the community, which I think is really, really nice. So I mentioned, Jane, you know, those VR headsets at the Meta Quest. My son has got one for Christmas. He's absolutely loving it. My wife discovered that Jane Fonda, her friend Nat Hatt told her how Jane Fonda has a fitness thing on the VR, which is wonderful because in our house now, it means that I have Jane Fonda's fitness workout on a 1980 Warner Brothers home video VHS. I have the Jane Fonda workout on vinyl, probably from the 70s. And now we have Jane Fonda in VR. God bless you, Jane Fonda, for keeping men, women, and well, everyone, men, women, everyone, for keeping human beings fit for 1,000 years. Thank you, Jane Fonda, for living forever. And God bless you. Okay, the list of films I have, I'll go through these in more detail next time. We also have the new issue of Empire magazine here. One of the worst things about the Canada Post strike, other than obviously people not being able to work when they wanted to work, and obviously life-saving things not arriving in the post. Well, I say the worst. One slightly annoying thing about the Post was not getting my favourite film magazine, Empire. I know, first world problems, James. And there's lots of films to talk about. Daniel Craig in the movie Queer, Nosferatu, The Brutalist. There are, maybe I'll do all the movies next week because we definitely ran out of time due to the rambles. But basically, next week I'll be talking about the amazing Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg's film A Real Pain. Kieran Culkin famously doesn't actually read his scripts before 10 minutes, or learn his lines until 10 minutes before they film a scene. There is an amazing interview with Kieran Culkin. What a fascinating human being and wonderful family man this gentleman sounds like. He obviously won the award at the Golden Globes on Sunday night. In the Guardian newspaper, I can't remember the name of the journalist, but the journalist that wrote the interview, she is phenomenal. She does these in-depth, proper, old-school 5,000-word interview profiles on actors. Her interview with Jeremy Clarkson, if you've watched Clarkson's Farm, is fascinating. She doesn't give people an easy ride as such, but she gets a real insight into them. And Kieran Culkin sounds like a genuinely fascinating person. I really loved his outlooks. I did not know that their father was kind of a drunk and abusive. I didn't realize that Macaulay Culkin had also completely taken a back seat from acting. There were so many revelations in there. Anyway, on films, I talked about this on the live podcast, on the video podcast, but My favourite Christmas gift was my wife got me the Pulp Fiction soundtrack on vinyl, which I loved because it was exactly 30 years since the movie came out, which means it's exactly 30 years since my father gave me a pirate VHS bootleg video of Pulp Fiction, which I still have to this day. I obviously have it on, got it on the Hollywood Suite, Amazon Prime, whatever. But I've also got the Blu-ray, the box set, the DVD, the VHS, the rental VHS, the American VHS, the soundtrack on CD. Now I've got the soundtrack on vinyl, but I've also got the original VHS pirate video that my dad gave me all those years ago that a friend of his at work got from a market store, and that's how I still choose to watch it. Even though I can watch it in 4K or HD or whatever, I prefer to watch the old grainy one with the font words popping up on the screen and the warnings and the graininess, because that's how I watched it back then. On the Golden Globes, the fascinating thing about Nikki Glaser, we'll come back to Nikki Glaser very briefly at the end. No one has a bad word to say about Nikki Glaser's set, which is a really beautiful thing when a person, I think I started the story earlier about how I met her all those years ago, about 12, 13 years ago. And again, it's just someone who has worked extremely hard to become one of the best of the best. And no one has a bad word to say about her, except, of course, all those very annoying male white American podcast hosts, the Burt Kreislers and the Tom Seguras and the Tony Hitchcliffs are going to find ways to kind of go, they always find ways. There was one terrible clip I saw of one or two or all three of those morons saying something like, Nikki to the Tom Brady roast, if Hinchcliffe or Schultz had her spots, they would have stormed it. She had the best. But it's like, look, mate, it's nothing to do with where and when. And she had the best set. She had the best set, isn't but the fact that they decide to try and sit and rewrite the history and reanalyze it and say, if Andrew Schultz had been there. And no, the point is that what Nikki Glaser has mastered, unlike that kind of without wanting to put my opinions too much on the table, that kind of bully boy style of roast comedy, is that Nikki Glaser infuses a charm and a heart into the insults that is, again, it's telling that she did close to 100 warm-up gigs and, of course, has been performing every night, multiple times a night for 20 years. To be able to do that kind of comedy and still keep it warm and not like Andrew Schultz, don't get me wrong, hilarious. Is there really any warmth in there? Like, it's just same with Hinchcliffe. Anyway, I'm going to let you all go. I'm going to say the movies. So the movies I'll talk about in detail next week are Real Pain, Baby Girl, A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan movie, the remake of the 70s sex movie Emmanuel, The Brutalist, Predators, Nosferatu, which came out on Christmas Day. Robert Eggers, if only he'd filmed that he filmed his last movie in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. I'm sure you know that. The Lighthouse. It wasn't his last movie. It was his last movie before last. The Nickel Boys, which is based on Colson Whitehead's incredible novel. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is, of course, coming on the 21st of May. The fourth Bridget Jones movie. I didn't realize there's two others. The fourth Bridget Jones movie, Mad About the Boy, is coming. My wife and I watched the first Bridget Jones movie over Christmas. That was one of the highlights of Christmas. And one of the most pleasant surprises for us was that I remember when Bridget Jones's Diary, the first one, came out. Of course, I'd read the book. It was a cultural phenomenon. We were both working in magazines at the time in London media. And at the time, it was kind of like, yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I can see why that's popular. Now, watching it, looking back, it is like, it's a time capsule. It really, really touched us because it took us back to basically when we met. It came out about 6 months after we met. We would have certainly, and all of the things, the kind of the rampant, consumption of wine, the smoking in the office, the hangovers, the sex, that was our lives. And it's so interesting watching it now because, of course, now no one's smoking in the office, and it's no longer socially acceptable to be a 2 bottle of wine a day, bottles of wine a day alcoholic. None of those things are acceptable anymore. But back then they were, and it was the norm. And it was so interesting watching it because it really took us back and took us out of our wonderful happy life now, but into that period when we met. Of course, there's another film coming out, which is the United Healthcare CEO Luigi Mangione film, which Alex Gibney, the amazing prolific documentarian who has done movies on Scientology and Enron, He has spent years working on a documentary about the world's richest man, Tesla founder, ex-owner, basically the new president, and seemingly disowner of his trans children, and all-round wanker. I don't think I can say that. I can't say Elon Musk is a wanker. Who knows? Maybe he will have, he will discover that someone has called him a wanker on a podcast on Apple, and buy Apple and melt it down. It's not, you can't melt it down. Anyway, point being, Musk is obviously not involved in this film. He has dismissed it as a hit piece, and Alex Gibney responded, "How would you know?" Very interesting. It's a bit like when I said to my son recently, I texted my son. I was out. I texted him saying, "Please, can you call Granny and Granddad?" And I got home and said, "Did you call Granny and Granddad?" And he said, "I didn't get the text." And I said, "How do you know there was a text then?" That's how you catch your kids out. Anyway, so we're going to cover all those films in detail. I'm very excited. As I said, this is the year that I'm completing my second book, and I'm culminating with right before the deadline. I'm going back to England for a visit to go to Blackpool to see a comedian that one of the first comedians I ever saw when I was 14, as a full circle thing. Anyway, all of this is to say, I better go, you better go. Thanks for listening, and watch Bridget Jones's Diary. That's my recommendation for the week. We'll be back next week with normal things. You can send me questions, comedy@james100.com. If you're coming to the St. John Theatre Company shows tonight, tomorrow, the next night, please bring subjects that you want me to talk about, laugh about, riff about, improvised routines on. I'll answer any question. Some of what will happen at these shows may go on to become bits and parts of shows. Much of it will never ever be seen or heard from again. All of this, anyway, thanks for listening. I've missed you all. This might well be the longest episode ever. I will leave you by saying that the Wicked director, when he was accepting his award, called the movie a radical act of optimism. And I think that a radical act of optimism should be our phrase for 2025. As I say, I'm going to get on the Wicked train. My mission for this year is to love the Wicked movie even more. And as Richard Gadd said when he accepted his award for Baby Reindeer, he said that streamers and networks need to keep some money back for the little person to tell their story. So amidst everything that's going on in the world, Elon Musk being the new American president, whatever Trump's got planned, whoever's next in line to take over Trudeau, let's keep letting the little people, i.e. us, tell our stories, and let's make all of them radical acts of optimism, because we don't want cynicism and anger and division to win over. And you know what? If you listen to this podcast, we're already part of an elite and very, very, very small group of positive people. And I love you all. I hope you all have an amazing rest of week. I hope I don't. I'll tell you one very funny thing before we go. On Saturday night, when I left Long Bay after my final performance of the Greatest Hits tour before starting the new tour, I came out and I turned on my Instagram as I fired up my car and put the heater on. And before the car wasn't moving, cops, if you're listening, before the car moved, I looked at my phone. And I went onto my Instagram and I saw this post. It said, someone's commented on your post, and it said, and someone had written, "incredible show." And I just thought, I was so proud of how the show had gone. I was so happy. And I thought, you know what? It was an incredible show. And then I clicked on the post, and they were actually commenting on my post about the Cirque du Soleil Crystal show. And there's me like seeing this thing, incredible show. I was thinking, oh, it was incredible. Yeah, I'm gearing up to put thank you very much and do a little grateful hands together emoji. And meanwhile, the next goes to show, whenever your ego gets out of hand, life and reality will pull you back in. Did anyone have a nightmare trying to find out where the bloody hell the Globes were on the TV on Sunday night? What an absolute farce. It's supposed to be easy. When we have 5 channels, it's like, okay, this thing's on TV, great, we can watch it. This thing's not on TV, okay, we can't watch it. We spent about an hour trying to find out where the bloody Globes was. I signed up for Paramount Plus because everyone said it was on Paramount Plus, but no, it's on Paramount Plus in America, not in Canada. So we had to cancel that, but then we paid for $6 for the bloody month, and I've already seen Tulsa King on the Pirate Channel. So I guess that's the universe trying to get its own back on me. And then we keep going and going, and I discovered it's on the City TV channel. And City TV, what the hell is City TV? But then I find out the City TV is in the live section of Amazon Prime. What a load of bullshit. What an absolute nightmare. We were logging into this, that, and the other, refreshing, changing passwords, blah, 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 blah. Make life easy for us. Why can't it be easier to find things? Anyway, that's my little complaint. God bless you all, and thank you for listening. And yeah, that's it. Who should I leave? Well, why don't I leave it? The final word to, I believe I quoted her earlier, the great Reverend Ginny Wilmhoff, who said, let's go into 2025 and let's all skate onto the ice of life. I'm going to do that. I hope you do too. I'll see you next week. Send me messages, and I hope to see you at the shows this week. And then final thing, you've got to end with a plug, isn't there? You've got to remember the plug. Next Thursday, I'm at Long Bay. Thursday, the whatever date it is, next Thursday at Long Bay, testing all new material. Basically, the best of what comes out of these workshop shows this week at St. Theatre Company. Thank you very much. See you soon. Love you very much. I've been James Mullinger. God bless you.
Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.
You've been listening to a Podstarter production.